Chima was one of the places where the armored battle of Asa-Lutar became an infantry battle at close range. The name belongs to the villages and local positions around the defensive zone where Indian troops held ground that tanks could not simply ignore. This matters because the popular image of Asa-Lutar is often a field of wrecked patents, a striking picture that can make the battle seem like a duel between armored regiments. But tanks do not win or lose alone. They need roads, infantry, artillery, engineers, reconnaissance, and secure ground behind them. Around Chima, the fight showed that a village held by determined infantry could slow armor, expose it, and help turn a fast thrust into a dangerous crawl.
If you would like to move beyond the podcast, you can see my available books at militaryauthor.me. And at trackpads.com, you will find magazines and galleries with hundreds of thousands of photos and videos to explore. For a listener without a map, Chima should be imagined as part of the defended belt behind Kemkaran, connected to the routes leading deeper into Indian Punjab. Pakistan's armored thrust wanted to pass through the Kemkaran sector and keep moving toward Beakywind, Harakay, and the Bias approaches. Indian forces, having withdrawn from forward ground, needed villages like Chima to become anchors in the defensive box. These anchors did not seal the entire battlefield by themselves. Instead, they broke up the attacker's movement and forced decisions. A tank column approaching a defended village had to choose whether to bypass, suppress, probe, or attack it directly. Each option cost time, and time was the resource Pakistan's plan could least afford to waste. The infantry around Chiyama faced a different kind of danger from the tank crews. Men in trenches, weapon pits, houses, field edges, and crop-covered positions could hear and feel armored movement before they fully saw it. A tank approaching through restricted ground is not just a target, it is a physical and psychological force, throwing noise, dust, shell fire, and fear ahead of it. Infantrymen had to hold their positions while artillery and tank fire struck nearby, while reports shifted, and while the possibility of being overrun remained real. This kind of steadiness is easy to describe after the battle, and very difficult to practice during it. Without that steadiness, the defensive box around Asa-Lutar would have had hollow walls. The role of infantry in an anti-tank defense is often misunderstood. Riflemen cannot normally stop a full armored formation by ordinary small arms fire, and it would be dishonest to pretend otherwise. Their importance lies in holding the ground that makes other weapons effective. Infantry protects anti-tank teams, watches approaches, prevents enemy infantry from clearing mines or positions, and keeps villages from becoming open corridors for armor. It also denies the attacker certainty. A tank commander who knows a village is empty can move differently from one who suspects hidden men, recoilless rifles, machine guns, mines, or artillery observers. Around Chema, Indian infantry helped turn the landscape from open country into contested country, and contested country is dangerous for tanks. Chima mattered because it complicated the relationship between Pakistani armor and Pakistani infantry. Tanks advancing into close agricultural and village country needed infantry near them to identify threats, clear built-up positions, protect against close attack, and secure captured ground. If tanks moved too far ahead, they risked entering blind spaces where defenders could strike from concealment. If they waited for infantry, the offensive slowed. If infantry came forward under Indian artillery and small arms fire, it could be pinned, scattered, or separated from the armor it was supposed to support. This is a classic combined arms dilemma. The tank gives speed and shock, but the village gives the defender places where shock alone does not settle the matter. The terrain around Chima reinforced the defender's advantages. Sugarcane and other crops could hide movement and reduce visibility. Village structures and tree lines broke up the field of view. Irrigation features, wet ground, embankments, and tracks made movement less free than it appeared on a broad map. For the attacking tank crews, each obstruction created uncertainty about where Indian weapons might be waiting. For the defenders, those same features offered concealment and the ability to survive long enough for artillery and tank fire to intervene. No one should imagine this as comfortable cover. Shell fire can smash walls, burn crops, collapse positions, and turn every hiding place into a trap. But even dangerous cover can be tactically valuable if it forces the attacker to slow and search. The fighting around Chima also shows how mines and infantry strengthened each other. A minefield by itself can slow tanks, but if it is not protected, engineers may clear lanes, or tanks may probe for bypasses. Infantry holding nearby ground makes that process harder. It can fire on clearing parties, report attempted crossings, and prevent enemy troops from walking calmly through the obstacle system. At the same time, mines help infantry by reducing the chance that tanks will simply rush over their positions. The defender's tools work best when layered. A mine delays, infantry observes, artillery strikes, tanks engage, and anti-tank weapons fire from concealment. Chima was one of the places where these layers helped turn local resistance into operational delay. Artillery was another key part of the fight. Guns behind the defensive zone could strike Pakistani concentrations, roads, suspected forming up areas, and positions where armor and infantry tried to reorganize. Artillery did not need to destroy every tank to matter. It could force tank crews to close hatches, disrupt communication, separate infantry from armor, and make commanders hesitate before committing the next movement. Around a village like Chima, artillery could make an attacker pay for bunching up near a route or for pausing to deal with resistance. The infantry holding the village and its approaches gave artillery observers meaning because observation turns firepower from noise into influence. The battle depended on eyes as much as guns. For Indian commanders, Chima was valuable because it helped preserve the shape of the defensive box. If Pakistani forces could break through or clear such positions quickly, the box might split into isolated fragments. Once isolated, infantry positions can be surrounded, bypassed, or reduced in detail, while tanks move on to deeper objectives. Holding Chima and similar positions helped maintain a connected defense that Pakistan could not easily unravel. The village was not important only because of what stood inside it. It was important because of what it prevented: a clean route through the defensive zone, a confident armored exploitation, and the psychological impression that Indian resistance was collapsing. In a battle of tempo, refusing collapse is an active achievement.
The human cost of fighting in and around villages should be treated seriously. Civilian spaces became military positions, and cultivated land became a battlefield. Soldiers fought near homes, fields, wells, tracks, and trees that had ordinary meanings before the war turned them into cover or obstacles. Infantrymen faced tank fire, artillery bursts, smoke, dust, and the strain of not knowing whether the next movement was an enemy probe or the main attack. Tank crews, too, faced fear in restricted country, where a hidden weapon could appear at close range. There is no clean romance in this. The defense of Chima was part of a larger victory, but it was built from exhaustion, danger, loss, and the hard discipline of men staying where the plan required them to stay.
Chima teaches one of the central lessons of Assault Uttar. Armor is defeated not only by other armor, but by a battlefield that denies it freedom. A village held by infantry can become as important as a tank regiment if it fixes the attacker, protects an obstacle, or forces a column into a predictable route. This does not diminish the role of Deccan Horse, 3rd Cavalry, engineers, or artillery. It explains why their roles worked. Indian tanks could engage more effectively because infantry positions prevented Pakistani armor from treating the defensive zone as empty space. Mines mattered more because infantry protected them. Artillery mattered more because observers and forward troops could report the enemy's movement. The village and the tank were part of one fight. In the longer development of armored warfare, Chima belongs to the recurring story of tanks meeting inhabited, cultivated, obstructed ground. From the First World War onward, armies learned that tanks could cross open killing zones and restore movement, but they also learned that villages, woods, rivers, mines, and determined infantry could break that movement apart. By 1965, tanks were more powerful, better armed, and better connected than the first machines at Cambrai, yet they were still vulnerable when separated from their infantry and forced into close country. Chima matters because it makes that lesson concrete. The armored battle at Assault Uttar was made possible by infantry holding local ground. Without those men in the villages and fields, the tank fight might have ended very differently.
You've been listening to Famous Tank Battles. These battles were never just about machines. They were about doctrine, terrain, firepower, logistics, and the hard problem of turning shock into victory. For more military history writing and books, visit militaryauthor.me. And for magazines, podcasts, and a massive archive of military photos and video, visit trackpads.com. Thanks for listening.